Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Welcome to Advance today. We're going to continue our article about this unusual wildlife program in San Diego, so stay tuned for day 2. We're glad you joined us today because in advanced class we have so many different kinds of interesting articles, don't we, Hazel?
We sure do, and this is one of them, Nurtured by Nature Wildlife Ranch. If you like wildlife, you might enjoy visiting this place.
Well, if you like any kind of nature, or if you even like animals and pets, I think you'll like the article. Don't you think so,
Absolutely.
Jack?
And I tell you what, there is so much useful language and useful vocabulary in this article. Obviously, talking about animals and wildlife is a very useful thing to be able to do. So I think this is a great article to cover.
Right, and you might be blown away with all the idioms. Well, that's one expression that we use. That just came out of the woodwork. Oh,
that phrase, yes.
Yeah, these phrases. But let's get on our feet and get going on here. So those are some idioms we talked about, right?
That's right. Yeah, we've got a lot of good idioms. You can see these all in the first day of the article on page 42.
Right.
Some of those are highlighted, and you can find a lot more of just really useful language that we use every day in English.
Mm-hmm. But before we get started on today, too, which is on page 43 of our magazine, let's just have a quick summary of what we talked about. Tell us where this place is and why they have it.
Well, we have a couple, Wendy and Kevin Yates, and their life had ups and downs, and one bad point was when they had a piece of property, a house, and it burned down in a wildfire. Mm-hmm. And the community really came out of the woodwork to help them get back on their feet. Lots of things happened that they didn't expect, a lot of support, and they decided to give back. So they decided to open up a foundation to help others.
That reminds us, even if something terrible doesn't happen to us, it's still nice if other people are in need and we help them because, we have this saying, it's more blessed to give than to receive. 施比受更有福. And that's a good phrase because when you give back to others, it makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it can really teach you a lot of things about what is the purpose in life and what is really brings us joy in life when we give to others.
And so this happened to them, but this guy Kevin Yates, because he had a little problem even when he was young, and we're going to read more about it. So open your magazine now to page 43, and we'll find out more about them. Let's take the first section down through line 19.
Kevin's parents got him involved with animals as a boy to help him cope with the symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. At 17, he started volunteering at a wildlife ranch, and at 19, he landed his dream job at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. He started the Animal Educators School program 2 years later. Wendy and Kevin married in 2006. Over the years, they transformed the former avocado ranch into a wildlife center where they raised and bred animals for school shows and zoos. The Yateses became known for breeding healthy, hand-raised species. They're now the world's largest breeder of armadillos, 100 and counting, and are a major breeder of Asian small-clawed otters, also over 100 so far. Today, the ranch has about 300 animals, including 36 otters and roughly 200 reptiles.
Well, they certainly were animal lovers. Just Kevin's parents, they must have loved animals too.
Yeah, probably. So their son had trouble paying attention deficit, and hyperactivity disorder, so very, very active. And so they wanted him to get involved in something, and he must have liked animals. So So that's why they got him involved with these animals to begin with, and apparently it really suited him.
Well, this is interesting because they say more and more kids now have this. We usually just say it's capitalized. It says ADHD. And sometimes when kids are overactive and they can't pay attention in school and the doctors diagnose them, they say, oh, he has ADHD. And what is that?
Yeah, well, I often think about it when kids can't sit still. It seems like they have paying attention and sitting quietly and listening to something. They really want to be active and doing something and have a lot of energy. And, honestly, I think doctors don't entirely know why kids are this way, but some people say it's just the way kids are. They have a lot of energy. Yeah,
but there is some kind of something wrong when they get too much that way, that they can't concentrate, though.
Yeah.
There is a medical thing for that.
It is a medical thing.
But anyway.
Some kids are like that.
But they have to cope with it. You have to handle it. You have
so
to
that's another topic, and you can read about that
right, that's
in a different article.
Subject.
That's another subject. But this young man, you can just think of him as very active and hard to sit still. And so the animals, he volunteered at a wildlife ranch, and that probably kept him busy, and he enjoyed it. And he could pay attention to the animals. And so
at
when
17, what happened?
So 17, he volunteered at a wildlife ranch. And when he was 19, he landed his dream job. So when he landed it, it means he got that job. He worked for it and he got it. And a dream job, whoa, that's something you've always wanted. It just suits you perfectly.
Now, San Diego, as we mentioned yesterday, it's a beautiful place to go, and it's just kind of a, good temperature. The weather's good down there, and they have a very famous zoo that everybody goes in. But they also have another thing called the Safari Park, which is bigger even than the zoo area, and they have a lot of animals that you can see. And so San Diego is really the place to go if you love animals, Hazel. Stop by there on your way next time.
So when I think of a safari park, maybe you can drive through and see animals and wild animals in a big area? Okay.
Right.
And then after that, he started the Animal Educators School. That was 2 years later. So, wow, he must have been only 21. You can tell he's got a lot of creativity. He loves animals, and he's got a lot of energy to be able to teach others and share animals with others.
Well, and then he married this girl, Wendy, and maybe she liked animals too. I hope so, because he loved them. So if she didn't, she probably had to learn to, huh?
Probably. And over the years, they transformed the former avocado ranch into a wildlife center. And I'm glad because I'm allergic to avocados.
You don't like that? Well,
One less
avocados are
ranch
supposed to be
doesn't
good
hurt
for
me.
you, though. But, I don't know.
And a wildlife center would be great, okay?
But avocados are not half as interesting as armadillos, right?
Exactly.
They both start with an A, right? Yeah, armadillo.
Although some people love them, but anyway.
But anyway.
Okay, well, they raised and bred animals for school shows and zoos. So they must have both enjoyed animals and breeding them and raising them. It was a great thing to do on their ranch.
Well, in that area, they became known for that. They would breed these animals, healthy animals, and they would hand raise them. So, you could feed the foxes and these, they didn't just put them out there and throw food at them. I mean, they really treated them like you treat your dogs, Hazel.
Okay, and that's very important because wild animals they're still wild, but if they're bred in captivity and handled and hand raised, they are more likely to be safer.
That's
and
true.
Be around people, more comfortable around people. So, so they got famous in that area for hand raising these different species.
Well, I grew up near a place near Seattle where they have all these animals they use for zoos, but they were more like sheep and cows and horses, sloths and all that. So that's a very unusual kind of animal, isn't it?
The armadillos are amazing. There's a picture of one right there.
Oh, I know it. You wouldn't think of petting them. They have very thick skin. That's kind of like,
You can roll into a ball.
Exactly.
I think it's amazing. They're the world's largest breeder of armadillos. That's a very unique distinction, or a very unique special.
You should stop and see it if you could. Doesn't it make you want to go and visit that place?
It does. I want to see how they keep 100 armadillos. Where they have the room for all of them.
I know. Well, and they got 36 otters. Now, otters are out in the wild, in the woods. And imagine having 36 otters there.
Yeah.
That's quite a few to take care of.
And they have a special kind of otter. It's an Asian small-clawed otter. And you can see the picture down below. They're really cute.
Yeah, but I don't know about these other reptiles. I don't know if that's snakes or
probably
crocodiles. Who knows?
lizards, all kinds of reptiles.
Geckos,
Probably.
all kinds of things, I suppose.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you have to go there and find out, Hazel, and give us a
Turtles?
new
Yeah,
report.
let's go.
No? But it sounds like they were really into that type of thing, doesn't it?
They
Sure.
really almost have their own zoo with all these animals. They've got, the ranch has about 300 animals. Wow. That's
I like
amazing.
these cute looking Asian small-clawed otters. They're got cute faces, aren't they?
They do have cute faces.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the kind of animals yesterday, but we're going to find out a little bit more about it because they're having a place where these kids who are sick and they might not be able to live longer or they have bad diseases, they can come here and feel relieved that life isn't so hard after all. Mm-hmm. Right. And so what's the name of the foundation that does this? Make-A-Wish for Kids?
Make-A-Wish.
Mm-hmm. And they work together with them with this Nurtured by Nature Wildlife Ranch. And the kids get to visit. What happens when they visit there, Hazel?
Well, they enjoy it. They have a lot of fun. They giggle. They forget their troubles. And so
Right.
it's a great experience.
And they get to swim with the otters. Let's read about that. Let's finish reading on page 43.
Swim with the otters. The Yateses got into the otter business in 2005 when a friend asked if they could temporarily care for a pair of otters he'd purchased from a zoo in Germany. Their daughters instantly fell in love with the inquisitive, high-energy creatures. And when the otters went for a wild, slippery swim with the girls in their backyard plastic swimming pool, an idea was born. Nurtured by Nature's Swim with the Otters program is the grand finale of every group tour. 8 or fewer people float in a chest-height, custom-made heated pool designed for aqua farming during a roughly 45-minute swim with 2 young adult otters. The otters seem to enjoy the session even more than the humans do. The Yateses say they only use animals in their programs that enjoy human interaction, don't kill people, and can't take off a finger in one bite.
Well, can you imagine? I know people swim with dolphins sometimes and these water creatures, but I never heard about anybody swimming with otters before.
Sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, I love how they phrase this opening sentence. They say the Yateses got into the otter business in 2005. And typically, I mean, we use this phrase, okay, someone got into, say, the car business or into the...
Something happened.
Yeah, some kind of business they got into, but it's a very unusual thing to say that someone got into an otter business.
Well, they would. And can you imagine anybody saying, would you please take care of my otters? Yeah. Otters? How come we got otters? We got otters all over America. Where did these otters come from?
Well, these otters came from Germany, I believe.
I wonder how that happened. That's strange.
Well, a friend asked them if they could take care of them for a short time, temporarily.
I never heard of people keeping otters as pets, so did you?
Well, I've never heard of it. I have no friends that have otters.
No, otters are up there
Not
in
at
the
this
mountains
time.
and the
It's
rivers,
a unique
right?
pet to have. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this friend had purchased them from a zoo in Germany, and he needed someone to care for them for at least a short time. And so their daughters instantly fell in love with these inquisitive, high-energy creatures.
Now, the otters have to be high-energy creatures. What do the otters actually do when they get to a river they want to get across? They build what?
Oh, yeah, a dam. Okay. So, the otters are very inquisitive, high-energy creatures, and I like this word inquisitive. It makes me think of the word curious. You can think about the otters want to learn about all kinds of things, and otters are very they're very curious creatures. They're very high energy, and they go around and they explore and they play. They're very fun creatures to be with.
Right, and their daughters just loved that, and they thought, oh, these are really great. And so they said, wow, when we'll go swimming, and the otters went swimming with them in their swimming pool, then they got a new idea.
Yeah, suddenly these otters must have jumped in the pool and started swimming, and hey, that's a good idea. The otters are having fun, the children are having fun. Maybe we can do this with other children, too.
So isn't it interesting how that got started?
Yeah.
Now, how many otters do they have now?
36, is that correct?
Yeah, 36 otters
Wow.
now.
That's a lot.
All right. And so that's how that happened with that. And so then they saw how happy their daughters were. And then later on, when they had all these other animals, they thought, well, this is good for these kids that are not well, and they can go and swim with these otters. They'll never forget that. It'll give them a great experience.
That's right. They do have a program, Swim with the Dolphins.
I know,
This
yeah.
is a little bit different.
Dolphins are
but
always in the water, but
Yeah.
otters live on shore, but they
Right.
go back and forth across
It's
the
probably
rivers.
easier to take care of otters than dolphins.
I don't know.
And so it's a great idea. Well,
I
unless
don't
you have an
know.
ocean or a big pool.
We've never had otters to take care of, have we?
That's true, too. I don't really know much about them.
But they're kind of cute here, looking at this picture. So, nurtured by nature that they started, they have this Swim with the Otters program. And that's the very last thing you do when you go on this tour. You go around and feed animals. It shows pictures of them here. What are they doing on the picture on page 42 at the bottom of that picture? They're feeding a fox, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
The kids feed the animals, they're feeding them worms. Wow. You know, we like to feed the animals when you're not supposed to feed them at the zoo unless they tell you to do it. But they go around and feed the animals and talk to them, pet them. But the very last thing, the finale, the grand finale, what do they get to do?
Yeah, they get to swim with the otters, and the finale is like the very last, or you might say the most exciting or important part of the show. It's the big ending to the program. So that's the finale at this place.
How does that work out?
Well, and people love it. But I was going to say grand finale, you can talk about any kind of show, and at the ending it's usually a great big ending and either a big surprise or everyone's on stage, something really grand.
Blows you away.
Yeah, it blows you away. And so here, the Swimming with the Otters, that's what the kids look forward to. It's at the very end of their tour, and they 8 or fewer people, so it's not a big crowd of people, but 8 or less. They float in a chest-high, custom-made heated pool designed for aqua farming.
What is aqua farming?
Well, that's a kind of, you can think about growing plants in a water.
In the water?
Yeah, it's true. Like a lot of vegetables can be grown actually in water instead. And
A lot of vegetables? I'm not sure about that. It's kind of
Some
unusual.
things do. It's
Yeah.
something new because places don't have soil, some places, but water
Yeah.
tanks.
Well, that's why they built it. It had warm water and everything like that. But they get to go in there, and it takes about 45 minutes. You get to swim with these young adult otters, and that really seems to be fun for them.
And who has the most fun?
Well, I don't know
Maybe
if
it's
the
the
otters or the
otters.
kids.
Yeah.
It says the otters seem to enjoy the session maybe even more than the humans do.
Because whoever heard of this? I never heard of this place before, did
Oh,
you?
no, this is my first time hearing of them.
It's
for
really
sure.
good. You have to
Yeah.
really stop off there.
But with wild animals, you always need to be careful.
That's
so
right.
they hand select
Right.
the otters that are safe. Mm-hmm. And they say that they only use animals in their programs that enjoy human interaction.
Yeah, so
And
they're
they-
kind of trained a little bit.
Fortunately, they don't kill people.
Or they don't take their finger off in one bite.
Well, that's
like an
comforting,
alligator.
right?
might
That's very comforting.
Don't put them in with alligators, right?
Yeah, my goodness. Yeah.
No.
So
I mean-
I think they're being a little humorous because it's obvious that you wouldn't want to put people in danger.
And you notice when they're feeding these little foxes over here that that's a kind of a fence thing that they don't.
That's right.
Actually, here we can sometimes go to the Liufu Park and you can feed the tigers and the lions, but they have a little fence like that, and there's just a little place open. You don't get to go out and pet them or anything.
No, don't try that.
Yeah. They might take your finger off. Bite
And more
your
than
finger.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful when you're with wild animals, don't you?
Yeah, because when you think about it, so dogs, for instance, we've bred them for many, many hundreds of years, and in a way, they've changed to become very comfortable being with humans. But a lot of these animals, they're not. They haven't been bred by humans in captivity for a long time, and so they are still fairly wild, even if they've been
They have to
raised.
watch. I'm sure they're watching
Yeah.
them carefully the whole time.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Well, there's a little sidebar here. It says that animal causes are in their blood. What does that actually mean?
Well, when something's in your blood, it means you have a passion for it. Perhaps
You're
your
born that
parents
way.
or your grandparents
Must be in
also
my blood.
enjoyed
I
that.
love animals. Don't you, Hazel?
Yeah. So
I think it's partly in your blood. Partly your parents let you have animals when you're little.
Yeah,
Because
so-
people are having cats and dogs with their babies now, and they kind of get used to it.
Right.
If you just have never seen an animal until you're 10 years old, you're afraid.
Right. So when something's in your blood, it might be from your parents, an activity
It
that
just
you
be the
enjoy.
way you were brought up, maybe. What does it
Skiing is
say?
in
Could
your
you read
blood?
that for us?
It says the Yateses have been in the animal industry for a long time. Kevin spent 28 years in the mammal department at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park.
Yeah.
And for more than 30 years, they've run Animal Educators, a former school education program that now hosts private encounters for the public, does conservation work, and breeds armadillos and otters for aquariums, zoos, and animal parks.
So he's got a lot of qualifications. So don't think you're just going to buy a piece of land and put some animals on it and do this.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of background.
That's true. Yeah, that's really good to note, Doris, that we have to remember that these, Kevin and probably Wendy too, both have extensive, long experience. They've worked at a zoo, so they know a lot about how to care for wild animals, what are the safe ways to do it, the healthy ways for the animals. So this is not just something that
You don't
anyone
just do
should
it.
try.
Well, even if you travel, if you go down to Australia or something, and you can go and see the kangaroos or the wallabies, or you can just see some of these cute animals. But, you don't just go and see them in the wild. They have places like this where they've been trained, and the people that have these places know how to take care of it, and they help you. You don't just walk around and see these wild animals.
Right. You need to be with a guide, and you also need to obey all the rules.
Right.
You see from time to time articles about how someone got too close to take a selfie and put themselves and the animal in danger.
Yeah, so you have to be careful even when you go to the zoo. Don't put your hands in there where the wild animals are and things like that.
And I think what we can tell from this family, they've had over 60 of the Make-A-Wish families visit them, and it sounds like every one of those visits has been a positive experience. So you can tell that the Yateses have a very controlled environment. Everything is planned in such a way that it's very safe, very careful, just a very relaxing, enjoyable experience, and you don't have to worry about the situation becoming dangerous.
So even if your kids aren't ADHD, you still might want to take them there. I think kids would enjoy it. And I think you'd like it, Hazel.
Sure, I would like it.
Yeah.
And so Kevin, because his parents took him to a place where he could volunteer with animals, and that became a career for him. So.
So we've learned some good words and some good ideas here. And to review some of the things, we have to cope with things a lot. We learned this word cope with as we started the lesson today. That means to be able to handle things. And we have to cope with learning other languages and other people from other countries. And when you cope with something, you learn how to exist or take care of it, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. And some of the other good vocabulary that we saw was inquisitive. You can use that as a word to describe something or somebody or rather some creature or some person that is curious. So they're inquisitive. That's another good word.
That's true. And what about being inquisitive? If you're not inquisitive, you'll probably never learn anything. right?
Well, it helps to be curious, right? But not too curious.
Okay.
Another phrase that I liked is kicked back. It's fun to kick back with your friends, just relax and have a good time. No worries, no stress. Don't kick back with the kangaroo because you might get kicked back.
Yeah.
But that's a good phrase that you can use.
And I like the word hands-on that they talked about because,
Sure.
a lot of people learn their job hands-on. You can go to school and study something in a textbook, but unless you go out and actually do it, don't have hands-on, you can't become very good at it without putting yourself into it and doing it. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's why I really like that a lot of children's programs are hands-on. Like, for instance, you'll probably see some museums are described as a hands-on museum. And that means it's a place that children can go and they don't have to just look at like the different things in the museum, but they can actually go and touch it. They can experiment with something. They can learn about it with their hands and rather than just looking at it.
Sounds like an advertisement for our thing that we have for kids 8 to 12 coming up this summer. They have hands-on to learn how to do TV and radio and make TV shows right here at Studio Classroom. That's hands-on program for kids.
We have a media camp.
Yeah, we have the media camp coming up. That's
Sounds
hands-on.
like fun to me.
What dates are those?
Yeah, but
Coming up in July, so
coming
you
up
can
in
read
July,
about that in
2
Studio
camps for
Classroom.
kids. Hands-on is the best way for your kids to learn anything, isn't it?
I would say so.
Yeah, they get blown away with all the experiences, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So we have a lot of good idioms and things we can learn and do here, and you will have to cope with whatever comes your way, whether it's something that is, whether it's up or down. Let's just have hope for the future, right?
Right. Cope and hope.
Hope and hope. That's good. Thanks for being with us, and thank you, Hazel, Jack, and everybody. We're glad that you could join us and use these words that you've learned and be back for another lesson next time. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.